So it's just been announced that the government are going to increase the grants available for people who are looking to renovate vacant properties. This is great news and much needed for the industry. Back in October of last year, myself and Christine were asked to be involved with a case study and a project or a report that the SCSI were pulling together to show how difficult it was for people to renovate vacant old properties. And I was delighted to be able to share our story to the SCSI. And back in October, they actually came to the house, made a video, and this is the video that they shot.
Pre-acquisition, we got a surveyor in to do a survey of the property, and we felt that there was a few structural issues mentioned, but it was a 100-odd-year-old property, so there was nothing too scary from that. We got a 30-40 page report back, and we were happy with that, and we moved forward.
When we got into the house, obviously there's more problems than what meets the eye when you're buying it.
When you start taking walls down and plaster off walls, and taking plaster off every wall in the whole house, you do see a lot more problems than are going to come up in a survey. It was very dated. There was no heating systems other than the 4 fireplaces. The bathroom and water, the only place that was coming into was at the very back of the house, which was a small bathroom at the back of the house. Condition of the house and the main body of the house was structurally sound in most places. There wasn't any major structural issues, but
we got a F rating for
a G rating on the BER at the start. So not that we were paying much attention to that at the initial outset of when we bought it.
The reason we bought the house was because the amount of square footage, it was actually a good price for the location. And then the other reason was there was no water damage as there was in a lot of other houses that are about this age.
And the ceiling heights.
And the ceiling heights were good. We looked past everything else.
You don't quite realise when you're looking at old houses and some of these houses that the floor levels are a little bit different all over the place, but you assume that all the floor levels are going to be the same on the ground floor for one of these houses, but actually each room is an inch or two off. So when you start to create an open space between all these rooms, between the hall and our new dining room, we've had to change some of the levels within each one of these rooms to make sure that when we put down our new floors that they'll all be level and run through. So that is a major change. It's a small little thing, but when they're an inch or two in the difference, the costs add up to have to kind of raise or drop floors.
We had 4 fireplaces and I wanted to keep 4 fireplaces, but she convinced me to take 2 of them out, and I think that's made a huge difference in actually opening up the space as well.
We had an extra bit of space towards the end. We were going to add a large window, like it's a double height window, and then there's a ceiling light in that kind of creates an atrium. So that room is going to be like an office or a study that will create a huge amount of kind of value for us long term, I think, to have that additional space to work at home whenever we need. Changes then the bathroom. We have no windows in any of the walls of the bathroom, but we only have one window in the ceiling, which is directly over the shower. So you're in the city centre and you're going to have a feel that you're nearly having an outdoor shower, which is going to be an interesting experience once it's installed. We've reconfigured the landing a little bit to create better entrances into those bedrooms. We've kept one fireplace which we will have to seal up for our energy rating. Timelines, you hit multiple different kind of snags as you go through. Like for me, the biggest pain points have been the price increases, because when we originally kind of put an offer in on this house back in 2020, we had an idea or a rough budget on what we could get and what we could, like, in terms of what our ideas were and how much it was going to cost. And I'd say we're up 50% more in less than 2 years on that budget originally. Your windows are your windows when you're taking out all your windows, when you're putting in new floors and underfloor heating, and you have your concretes and blocks and everything going in there, and you have insulation going in and new plastering. There's not much you can change. The square footage is there. There's not much that can change. The material cost goes up and the labour cost goes up. There's not much savings you can do because you don't have much options there.
Even though the house was like functional before we bought it, it really wasn't. We had to do all the wiring, all the plumbing, add the steel. Like, it basically wasn't a functioning house and people were living in it. So, it's kind of hard when you start going through this and you have to comply with all these regulations that people don't have when they're living in a rundown house before they redo the work.
When we went sale agreed the first time, we found out that there was some legal issues and there was probate and there was no timeline on that.
There was 4 siblings that lived in this house and none of them ever got married. they kind of didn't really do their
Transfers each
legal
time.
transfers because they didn't really have anyone to transfer to. So we had to do 4 legal transfers because they were all 4 of them had inherited the house, but they never actually, as they died, they never actually went and did the legal transfers.
They never did probate. So there was some of these dated back like 10 years. We went through planning pretty quickly after we closed the sale because we had done so much pre-work in terms of design, and we had gone through with our architect and sat down and agreed all the details in terms of kitchen layouts, bathroom layouts, and the reconfiguration of the house. And we didn't receive any objections to the planning application, and we got the planning permission back quite quickly. The only reason we actually had to go in for planning permission was because of the size of the garden, which is a kind of a strange one for me, because the amount of square footage we added was under the requirement for a planning permission, double height extension to the rear and part. We were in the square footage allowances for an extension, but what actually caught us to actually go in for planning permission was the fact that our garden was going to be less than 25 square meters. And this is a strange one because the garden wasn't even 25 square meters to begin with. So we were actually making the garden roughly the same size or a little bit bigger. And to have to go in for planning permission just because we were reconfiguring that kind of seemed a little bit odd.
So that video was pulled together by the SCSI. It was part of a much larger report of 20 properties that were case studied, and the findings were put to the government there a few weeks ago. And it's probably one of the catalyst reasons for why the government have decided to increase the grants available to people. So it's great work that the SCS have done over the last year or so to compile all the data to give to the government to prove that fixing up vacant homes was not viable in a lot of the cases. I think only 1 in every 4, 1 in every 5 were actually feasible. It turned out that our project was feasible to do, but many of the other case studies that they looked at just weren't feasible for people to do. This video was taken back in October, maybe about 6 months ago. So the project has moved on since then, and I will shoot another video of the house in terms of what it looks like now. We're almost about to move in, so I will shoot that video in the next few weeks. So do make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to find out what the final house looks like in a few weeks' time.